Good morning. I'm Aisha Opalwa and I'm your moderator for today's session. Seminar is on the research in the 21st century organized by IRA. And what the seminar aims to do is to get you equipped with the skills you require to get started in research writing. So be rest assured you're in the right place. Our speaker for today is Adeyinka Peace Adeduba, who is a graduate assistant with the Department of Mechatronics Engineering, Federal University of Technology, Mina. He obtained his Bachelor of Engineering degree in Electrical Electronics Engineering from FUT-MINA in 2015 and Masters of Science with distinction from the University of Ibadan in Nigeria 2022. He's registered He's a registered engineer with Council for the Regulation Engineering Nigeria and COREN and the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. His research interests includes computer vision, control engineering,
Why
robotics,
Oh,
medical
I know
AI, and
he's outside.
precision
Okay,
agriculture.
now. Thank you. Why
Can I
Hello,
think we
Mr.
have an open
Hussein.
mic.
Please, can you mute yourself? So sorry about the interruption. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So while we had an amazing session last week, get ready for another wonderful session. Um, Please ensure to have your mic muted. Should you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat box or raise your hands using the control on the Zoom. I'm calling on today's speaker to please take the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, can you hear me and can you see my screen? Hello, can you hear
Yes.
me? Okay. And please, can you see my screen?
Yes. Perfectly.
All right.
Yes, you can see us, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
First of all, I want to really apologize for the mix-up. Actually, I had got myself ready for the class as like 7 o'clock or 8. But then I was expecting the organizer to tell me whether it's holding or not. So by 8:30, when I didn't see anything, I had to tear down and engage in other things. So I was already busy at the time when he reached out to me that that this seminar is still holding. So I've turned on my system, and unfortunately, the system is not even cooperating with me. Obviously, the guy is angry. So I'm very sorry. And so that's why I'll be using my phone. I know it will not be flexible enough as what I want, but then I'll be using one hand to try to set up the system as well, so that when the system is set up, I'll just connect my system and transfer the call back to the system. All right. So once again, I'm very sorry for all the mix-up. I hope I'm forgiven. Okay, so today's discussion we want to look at, of course, research in 21st century, but our focus will be on strategies for writing literature review. It's a very broad topic. So we'll take it in three classes. Today is the first one, and the focus today will be more on why do you do research, how do you do research, what exactly is literature review, and um, particularly it will be focusing on how do you read paper, like how do you get paper to read and how do you read your paper. That's the first thing that we'll be looking at today. In the subsequent classes, we'll be looking at how do you analyze the things that you have read, how do you categorize them, how do you sort them together, and then how do you draft and start writing. And then of course we'll look at how to publish as well. So a little profile about me, just a very short profile. This is my Google Scholar page. As you can see, I started research in 2016. That's my first paper that I published. It was an undergraduate thesis. By the way, I have my wonderful brother on call, Engineer Ernest. I'm so sorry, I should have greeted you before I start the class. Ernest and I finished from FUT in 2015 together, and he has been an awesome brother. So he's an engineer, a construction engineer. So if you see him billing very well. And then I have Engineer Ayodele also on the call. Engineer Ayodele is a lecturer at First Technical University, Ibadan. And I've seen also Miss Gania. I've not met Miss Gania personally, but we've had reasons to collaborate and do research together, and so they are wonderful people. All right. So having done that, the goal of this workshop really is to help you understand the purpose and basic requirement of an effective literature review, and also to help you critically assess research material. So how, when you pick a paper, how do you begin to critically assess it, develop a review strategy for yourself in inventing, organizing, and drafting your own literature review, and also to help you cite sources appropriately. We won't be dealing so much with this because we have software right now. I mean, the last point, we have software right now that can help you easily undo that. And in the course of discussion, we'll actually introduce that. Before I start, I also need to apologize one more time. There may be lots of distraction because where I am now, there may be children coming into the room. I could have used somewhere else that will be less distracting, but unfortunately, I have teared down all those ones. So please just permit me in case you are hearing lots of background noise. I'm very sorry about that in advance. All right. So, oh, you see, talk of the devil. Please help me carry. Okay. So, in writing literature review, there's a lot of things I'll be saying actually off um, this presentation slide, and I think they are all necessary just to prepare our mind. But broadly, literature review is a documentation of a comprehensive review of the published work from secondary sources of data in the area of specific interest to the researcher. So what I highlight there, which are key to what we'll be discussing, is that it is a comprehensive review. I think I still have a slide that'll tell you what literature review is not, but for now, it has to be comprehensive. Like um, it has to be a little bit purposeful, directive, focused. You know, we should read your literature review and know that, oh, this is the line of thought that this person is trying to establish. Secondly, I got this from one of my mentor. He said literature review must tell a story. In fact, it is actually an historical record. Whether you are just opposing researches in that area, or you're just giving or you're giving a chronological report of what are taking place in that area. Depending on what your goal is, we're going to look at that also, but it has to be comprehensive, and then it has to be in a specific area, in your own specific area, right? Really. Now, the body of literature is very, very wide, and I think that is the reason for this kind of forum, to discuss and to help people navigate what is the appropriate way to read actually and to write. A couple of times I've set out to write a review paper. I've not been able to do that. Yeah, I've not been able to write a review paper. And then you wonder, why am I now here teaching you literature review? Yeah, review paper, you can easily get lost in it because the literature is just so wide, and to organize them, it's really a big deal. But we cannot run away from literature review, whether in your thesis, whether in writing and publishing a paper. You cannot run away from there. So we all still have to do it. But then narrowing and scoping the area you want, I mean, your area of interest, is a particular skill to learn. All right. So that's what I want you to take away from this point. All right. So then we have three definitions that I also want to bring. It is an account of what has been published on a topic by accredited scholar and researcher. Now, what is important here is, number one, your literature review must have been published. So it's not an opinion. It's not a website. Quite a number of time people bring something on the website and insert it in their literature review. People use Wikipedia and all, but in a real technical setting, if you want to publish really in a serious journal, let me use that. Your work will not be regarded if you are inserting web page or Wikipedia. It has to be a published topic in accredited scholar. I mean by accredited scholar. Now, this is another issue that we have to pay attention to as a young researcher. Now, a lot of time when we want to do literature review, we just look for let me use myself as example. uh, During my thesis, my undergraduate thesis, the paper I was looking for are not paper published somewhere else. I'm looking for papers published in Nigeria because easily they can support my claim. And what was my claim? Now this system, this is the first time it is done in Nigeria, but nobody cares whether it's the first time that it's done in Nigeria or it's the first time it's done in my village. The world is not just Nigeria. The world is a global village. So when you are reviewing, you want to review what has been what is a generally accepted opinion, really. And how do you know a generally accepted opinion? It is by considering an accredited or a well-known researcher or scholar. And you know, we will talk about this a little bit more, but as these thoughts are coming, I also want to just chip in because I may eventually forget. Now, when you want to publish um, a literature review or any paper, there are some journals that are very, very critical about your literature review, about the papers that you cite. For instance, if you want to publish in IEEE transaction, by the way, IEEE transaction is one of the highest rated papers in the world of electrical engineering and related fields. Now, if you do not cite paper from IEEE transaction, but you are citing paper from, say, Mekunkele's Journal of Science and Technology or University of Ibadan Press and all of that, they will not regard you. They will tell you, we are sorry, but we cannot verify some of this information. So you must look for who are the accredited sources that you want to cite and what is their credibility in citing. So that is very important. I hope that questions will come on this that you can a little bit expand on. Now, your literature review discusses published information in a particular subject area and sometimes information in a particular subject area within a certain period of time. Now, this is important. Now, you hear some people will tell you that the papers you cited are too old. Yeah, because what we believe is that research is expanding and um, some earlier claims they are out of vogue. Some of them have been proved wrong. For instance, somebody could go ahead also and be citing maybe some theory of evolution or some theory of universe that has been disproved. So it has to be within a particular, and that is where timeliness comes in when you are doing your literature review. And Google Scholar has helped us. So when searching for your paper, you can actually tick the range of years that you want to search a paper from. So you could look for 5 years back or 10 years back. That's not necessarily saying that any paper that is um, 20 years back you cannot cite, because there are some fundamental principles that are still relevant to any debate. It doesn't matter when it was published, you can still cite those ones. But timeliness is very important in literature review. All right, last one. A literature review is a body of text that aim to review certain points of current knowledge on a particular topic. I think that is also collaborating what is on number two. All right. Now, the most comprehensive definition I found is by this guy, Irene Clark. So a literature review surface scholarly article, books, and other sources. It could be dissertation, conference proceeding, on relevant topic. Its purpose is to demonstrate that the writer has insightful and critically surveyed relevant literature on his or her topic in order to convince an intended audience that the topic is worth addressing. Really, when we do literature review, this exactly is the point. This is exactly the point of doing literature review. Of course, we'll look at the purpose of literature review shortly, but this comprehensively and succinctly display put the points that we will try to emphasize in this first half of this webinar. Now, the purpose is that you want to demonstrate that you have read. You want to demonstrate that you are actually a scholar. You want to demonstrate that you are an authority, or you have a level of authority to speak on the topic that you want to address. And secondly, you want also to convince your audience that this topic that you are addressing worth addressing. And it could be by establishing gaps in the literature, which is what you always hear. If you had ever defended a project, they will ask you, so what is the gap in the literature, or what is the new thing that you are introducing? What they are saying in excess is that, have you really done a critical literature review? And if you have done a critical literature review to identify research gap, however big or small, will not be a problem. All right. So the papers you read, or the scholarly articles that you survey, they could be journal article, could be books, they could be dissertation. Dissertation means maybe undergraduate thesis or master's thesis. Project works actually. So, and it can also be conference proceeding. All right. So literature review reviews is a synthetic, a synthesis of study on a given topic. Now, when we mean synthesis, we mean bringing so many ideas into one. It usually precedes a full-length original study. It's as a way of introducing the general topic. So it could be that when you are writing a paper, your literature review is to give a broad background of the area that you are studying. And it can also precede, of course, definitely precede your methodology, which is telling us that, yeah, the method that you are using, as is based in the literature, or is addressing a particular gap in the literature, what people have left unanswered or uncared for in the past. So that is the purpose of literature review. So its purpose is to help reader understand the background to your study, and how it is the next logical study to be conducted in this domain, of course. So the purpose is that you want to show that this study that you are doing, it's actually relevant, right? So necessarily a good literature review requires a thoroughly researched topic. And that is the point. To start, you have to read. Like, that is the summary. To start, you have to read. You have to read very, very well. Sometimes last year I hosted a webinar on literature review like a pro, where I taught people how they can read I think how they can read 30 journals in 1 hour or thereabout. I can't remember how I frame it. But then in that webinar, I was able to establish that it is possible for you to even read 50 journals in 1 hour. But then that is the pro level. We all start from somewhere which is the beginner level, where it is possible for you to read one paper in 3 days. But then when you have thoroughly read, you get to a level where you become sort of an expert or an authority in that field, and you cannot pick a paper and read it for more than like 31 hour. 32 minutes, like between 30 seconds and 2 minutes, you are done reading the paper. So that is possible, and that is also telling you that literature review is a function of how well you have read. You start from somewhere, and then you get to a level. All right. So now, yeah, what literature review is not. Okay, literature review is not an annotated bibliography. So it's not just somebody said, and I quote, number one. No, it's not just an annotated bibliography, and then it's not a list of seemingly unrelated sources. It's not citing this person, citing that person, and the people you're citing has nothing to do with what you're doing. Also, it's not a literary survey containing author's bio, list of work, summary. So it's not um, um, Ayodele 2019, who is a lecturer in First Technical University, did work on material science, breast cancer, HoloLens, and no. That's not literature review, and it's not the case of just saying fuzzy logic was applied in Adeyinka et al. And genetic algorithm was applied in Abdullah Jibril et al. And all of that. No, that is not literature review. Literature review is not also background information or explanation of concepts. Um, there is a theoretical background that you can write when you are writing a thesis. That's not literature review. So theoretical or background information is not literature review. In theoretical background information, you can write a theory of something. You can write on definition of key terms and all of that. You can explain basic concepts upon which your project or your research is standing. That is not literature review, right? These things we need to get straight. Also, literature review is not an argument for importance of your research, even though it can be. I mean, and often it does. The primary purpose of literature review is not really to fault people. I don't know how to really explain this, but this is really an important point. A lot of us, when we are doing literature review, you'll see a paper that actually present a better method than your method, or a stronger theory than the theory that you are presenting. But all you do in your literature review is just to pull it down. Even some of the claims that you are making about that method, even if they are not true, people still go ahead and do. A number of times I've reviewed paper for conferences. I have some of my mentors who have hosted conferences, and we really, really have to read. I remember a particular year I read close to 50 papers. But some of the things that I see, which I don't like what people do, like which I don't ever want you to do in your literature review, is you don't have to pull somebody else's work down. If the work has limitation, that is something else. But a work that doesn't have limitation, you just keep probing and looking for unverified fault in somebody else's work. That is not the primary purpose of literature review. If the work is good, tell us that it is good. Yeah, if the work is better than your own, tell us it is better than your own. There's no point shiving and looking for relevance where it is not. If a work is better than your work, tell us it is. And if it is not, if you don't want to tell us, then leave the paper, let it rest. All right. So that is literature review. So literature review has a number of functions. Number one is to bring clarity and focus to your research problem. Is to tell us that this is the problem that you're trying to solve. This is the reason why you're trying to solve it. And the way you tell us is not by saying that I'm just trying to think of a very recent problem. Okay, we have a massive exodus of youth from Nigeria right now. So that is actually generally known. But then you can't come and tell us that we have a massive exodus of youth from Nigeria. You don't have any basis for that. How you find basis for that problem is by showing us from a literature review. Whether somebody has conducted a survey, whether somebody has whether there is whether a primary survey or a secondary survey, whether there is a World Bank project that has done that, whether there is a publication that shows that that's what literature review is supposed to do. Then secondly, literature review is supposed to improve your methodology. I wish I'm on my system, I would have shown you. I think sometimes last year I had to write a concept note on a technique called digital twin. I want to use it for asset traceability. That's livestock asset traceability. And I had an idea of what the system is supposed to look like, a conceptual overview of the system. I'd even sketch it down. But at the time I review my literature, which is actually a wrong way that a wrong approach that I took. I was supposed to start from literature and then get my methodology, but that's not what I did. I started with my own opinion and then read literature as if literature is supposed to come and support my claim, right? But when I start reading literature, I saw what people have done. I saw the innovations that people have done. I saw a little bit what I'm thinking is also in line. But then with the ideas I got from literature, I was able to modify my own thinking, the architecture I had in mind, and then represent it, which is quite better. So literature review can help you in fine-tuning your own methodology. And literature review can even help you to come up with a new methodology entirely. We've seen that happen severally in the literature. Um, we've seen it in finite element analysis in mathematics. We've seen it even in Darwin evolution. If you read theory of evolution by Darwin, I don't know if anybody had cared to read that, but you see that his work is based on what some people have done. Some of the species that he was identifying were not actually identified for the first time on his own research. They had been what other people have done. So that is so that I will not talk so much on this slide. All right, literature review is also to broaden your knowledge, your base knowledge in the research area. Just like I used my example, I had an idea of what the concept's supposed to be, but then when I read the literature, I see how people have been thinking, and of course, it broadened my understanding, and then I can come up with a better thing. All right. Yeah, and then lastly, to contextualize your finding. Okay, so let's look at it a little bit one by one. Bringing clarity and focus to your research, literature review can play an extremely important role in shaping your research problem. Yeah, there's a way you may likely present your research problem, but when you have read the literature, of course, you can get a better feel of how you need to present your research problem. One of the example I can give for this is my MSc thesis. I did MSc in an area that I I'm a little bit a novice. I just like control engineering, sounds cool. So let me look at what they are doing in this field, and then I want to do my master's there. But when I got there, I discovered that I don't know a bound about it. And secondly, I was at that time I was also trying to explore reinforcement learning. By the way, I do research basically on medical AI, and I apply so many artificial intelligence techniques. So um, reinforcement learning, I've never worked on it. I've never applied it to any problem. I've only been attending classes and listening to what people have to say. But then I wanted to do something with reinforcement learning. So I had two things. I want to use control theory, and then I want to use reinforcement learning. Now, to put my problem statement becomes a very, very big problem. At that time, I read like that's the truth. I think I read close to 80 journals within the space of a month. And what it does for me is to help me shape my research problem. And by the time I got that research statement, it's not more than 2 lines, but it was so powerful that if you wake me from the sleep, I can tell you. And that was very divining for me. So literature review can bring clarity and focus to your research problems. All right. It also helps you to define the relationship between the research problem and the body of knowledge in your in the area that you are researching. We have been saying this, and so I can go on. It can also improve your methodology. I think I've discussed a little bit on this one, so I wouldn't like to waste more time here. All right. Then it's broaden the base in your in the knowledge base in your research. Literature review ensure that you read widely around the subject area in which you intend to conduct your research. In fact, the excess is that you read. It is important to know what other researchers have found in regard to the same or similar questions that you're asking, what theories have been put forward, and what gap exists in the relevant body of knowledge. And this is one of the core reasons why we do literature review, and that is what literature review can give you. Now, I need to step by a little bit and say that First of all, the reason why you do literature review is not because you want to publish, and it's not because you want to write your thesis. It is because you want to know. There are so many papers I read during my MSc that they never feature in my thesis, and they have never featured in any paper I published from that thesis. Their role is just to help me understand this topic, this area. So at a point, I was looking at my folder and I discovered I've read close to 250 journals within the time I'm doing my MSc thesis. You get? So, sorry, I'm saying that you get. All right. So the idea is that I should be um, I should be an authority in this field, and the only way I can do that, the only way I can um, the only way I can know what has been done in the literature, the only way I can also improve myself, increase my knowledge base, is by staying with the literature. All right. Yeah. Then to contextualize your finding, you notice that, okay, I don't know, maybe you have noticed, but if literature review outlasts your project. So literature review is not what you do only in chapter 2. I've had people saying that you're not supposed to cite paper in chapter 3. That is not true. In fact, you're supposed to cite in chapter 4 when you are presenting your result. I think the only place you may not likely see people citing is in their conclusion, but that is also not true, because you can conclude based and compare your result with what somebody else has also done. So your literature review starts from chapter 1 if you're writing thesis to chapter 5. And if you are publishing a paper, your literature review or the literature keep featuring from the introduction to the conclusion. So it's not what you do one off. It's not just a chapter. It's not just a section of your paper. It is the entirety of your paper. It helps to contextualize your finding. It helps to answer questions, different questions that may be asked. All right. So just to summarize, the purpose of literature review is to prove the background information, to establish the importance of your research, to demonstrate your familiarity, and to carve out a space for future research. That is your own research. All right. Okay, so characteristics of an effective literature review. Number one is outlining important research trend, assessing the strength and weakness of existing research, identifying potential gap in knowledge, establishing a need for current and or future research project. All right. So if I can just a little bit speak on this, I think I've been saying the same thing over, but I just want this to sink into you, because literature review is actually um, um, it's a principle. It's a principle that must stay with you. It's a principle that must be part of your research problem formulation, and in fact how you do research. So many people are not comfortable in how they do research because they are not comfortable in how they assess literature. So this is very important, and that's why you just see my slide is bringing it up so many times. Okay, so now steps for writing a literature review. We have 5 of it. Number 1 is planning. Number 2 is reading and research. Number 3 is analyzing. 4 is drafting, and the 5th is revising. Now, in today's webinar, we'll be looking at the first and second, planning and reading, and in the subsequent one, we'll be looking at analyzing, drafting, and revising. Right? Okay. So, planning. The question is, what type of literature review am I writing? So, if you want to write a literature review, so now in this talk, it's a bit of mix for me from what I got from the organizer. We have undergraduate people who will be trying to write their own thesis. We have postgraduates who are planning to write thesis, and also we have people who are looking for postgraduate admission scholarship, and people who want to publish paper. So that's why I'm having a lot of mixed. And of course, that is good for me. It also make it like a very broad discussion that we're having. All right. I wish if it is interactive, but I don't know the settings. This is my first time. Maybe in the next class, I'm not just going to start talking from A to Z. I would have wished that people can interrupt me and ask questions like immediately. Organizer, is that possible? But like that's what I wish. Is it
Yes, sir.
possible
It's
to have?
possible, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank God I voiced out. Okay. But okay, if that's possible, then before I move to this, because this is going to be form the second part of this lecture, if there is question on what I have asked, what literature review is, what literature review is not, the purpose of um, literature review, if there's a question on that, or you have a contrary view, of course you should have a contrary view, because many of us are not taught, or we're not taught this, and it is possible to have a contrary view. So please let me have a feedback from the first aspect of the class before we go to the next one. Please, anyone? Is there any question on the chat box? Sorry, I can't move to the
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Denka. If anyone wishes to speak, you can make use of the raise your hand icon and then we can call you. And
okay.
then if you don't want to voice out, you can just type your comment or whatever question you wish to ask using the chat box. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. You see, for me, the first aspect that we just finished discussing is very important than the second one. Like I said, it's a principle, it's a philosophy that must stay with you. You know, it defines how you carry on, how you carry your research on from now till whenever. Whether you are planning to be an academic or you just want to do research and get your MSc certificate and go. Whatever the case may be, if you're going to do research, if you're going to write your thesis, these fundamentals must stay with you. All right. Okay. So if I don't have, maybe as I'm going on, please at any time you can just stop me and ask your question. All right. So the first thing in writing literature review is to plan. This comes before you
Hello, sir. We
even
have
do
someone
research.
raising up their hand.
Okay, thank you. Good. Please ask
We
your
have Johnny
question.
Samuel and Yusuf Zubair. So, Johnny Samuel, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, good morning, sir. Please, I really appreciate your presentation. My question is, uh, before you even write anything at all, is literature review the first thing you will do before you even think of? If you already have a feed, okay, this area I want to work on, is literature review the first thing you will do to broaden your knowledge? Then maybe before you start actually looking at the gap that
Oh,
in
thank you.
that area.
Thank you. That's a very brilliant question. Thank you so much. Um, yeah, literature review is the very first thing that you do before you even start writing. Before you before you think of anything. In fact, before you draft your topic, the first thing you know is what do I want to work on. For instance, let me use my MSc thesis just to now for my MSc thesis. What I have in mind is I want to work on blood glucose regulation. That looks okay. It starts with I want to do something on control and I want to use reinforcement learning. Then I am always a medical person, so I want to do something on medical that I can use this for. So I come in, oh yeah, I want to do blood glucose regulation. That sounds like a control problem. And then I want to use reinforcement learning for it. Now, I don't have topic. That is all I have. And that is what I keep on searching for. So that forms my keywords. When I'm searching, that is the keywords I'm using. Blood glucose regulation, reinforcement learning. And that is the basis that I'm doing. Now, if you ask me, I change my topic 4 times. Nobody is changing my topic for me when I'm writing my MSc thesis. I change the topic 4 times. In fact, until the last day, I'm not certain of what topic I should put. Now, I change my objective several times, not my supervisor changing it now. Now, the idea is that as I read, I got new idea, I got new light and all, and the helps shape the way I'm thinking and shape the entire way of conducting my research. So in answering you a short way, literature review starts before you get a topic, just after you have made up your mind on the area you want to work. So the most important thing is to get an area you want to work, then have some keywords that can help you search, then start your literature review from there. And your literature review continues until the end of the project. It doesn't stop in between, right? So I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much for that question. All right, the second person.
Okay, good morning, sir. I'm
Thank you. Good
Samuel
morning.
Johnny. Uh, as regards the answering of the question you just made, I discovered there are quite some conferences I tried applying, and what I keep getting is, do you want to publish a paper or present a paper, and they're asking for the abstract, not necessarily the literature review. So it's making me feel as though the abstract seemed to be kind of before. That's just an undergraduate small person's view about that. Then also you said I don't need to use by the time somebody has read and read and read, gets to a point where the person is able to get a proper view of the research paper in 30 to 2 minutes. I don't know if the reading of the literature review now is what gives the person a proper view about it, or the person just flips through and will be able to get a proper view. Then the third question
Okay.
is I don't know if I could get the do's when writing a literature review. I want to screenshot it. I don't know if you could just slide to that and let me screenshot.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I think I'll pass you this.
Hello, sir. We are not hearing you again.
This. Oh, hello. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, sir.
Okay. Sorry. I think a call is trying to enter. All right. What was this? Okay. Abstract for your conference. The conference know that you cannot write abstract unless you have completely you have completely written the paper. So when you present them an abstract, they just read the abstract. It doesn't take them any time, and it's help them to quickly make up their mind on the paper you want to submit, right? So that's for abstract. But the abstract is the last thing you write in the paper, not the first. Even though it is the first thing that people read, it is the first thing that you present. It is a summary that summarizes the entire paper. And remember, you cannot write a summary unless you have a body of text already. So abstract is the last thing that you write. In fact, the way to write paper is not the way it is organized, right? So if that would just help maybe. Now paper is organized like abstract, introduction, literature review, methodology, results, discussion of results, and conclusion. Now in the way you plan to write, in the way you conduct your research, actually the conduction of your research starts with literature review, and then you go on to your methodology, because from literature review you're supposed to know how to write your methodology, and then implementing your methodology you have a result. Now when you want to write, you start writing really from your methodology. This is the problem I want to solve, and this is the result I got from there. So it is when you do that you know, oh, what are the relevant literatures that I consulted during the that are relevant to this result I got and the methodology that I have. That forms your literature review that you write, not that you read. I hope you get. Okay, so after writing your literature review, of course, that's now your paper is already surfacing. So that helps you to write your introduction and conclusion at the same time. So introduction and conclusion are written at the same time, so it must all agree with each other. And of course, abstract will now be the entire summary of it. So I see a lot of people want to write and they start from introduction. Of course, that's going to be the weirdest paper. Is going to stress you so much, and by the time people are reading it, they will not even find it so interesting to read. I believe you have read a paper that is so captivating, like from the beginning to the end, you don't want to drop that paper. Yeah, that is how those quality papers are written. All right, I hope that answer your question. Um, I can't remember the second question you asked now. So please just remind me, what's the second question? Okay, I think I remember now. Please, can you still hear me? Is anybody hearing me?
Yes,
Hello?
We
sir.
are
Yes, we
hearing
can.
you, sir. We are hearing you, sir.
Okay. Okay, I think
Yes,
the
sir.
second question has to do with I said it is possible to read literature, to read a paper within 30 seconds and 2 minutes. Yeah, like I was saying, you start reading small, but by the time you read, by the time you have read, you will have understood that study area so much well that the only thing you'll be looking for is in this new paper that I'm holding. Of course, I don't need the introduction. The introduction is just going to tell me about the problem, which I am already familiar with. The literature review is going to show me other people that have done works on that area. By the way, I have also read many of the people that he will be citing. The things that is now left is what is the method that he used. In fact, chances are that I'm also familiar with the method that he wants to use. So I will not even bother myself so much as to spend hours reading it, right? And then, of course, I will now be interested in the results and the conclusion that he made. So that is how you screen out. And really, by the time you start reading, by the time you get to your 100 paper or 150 paper, you know what I'm saying is true. In that case, you just read abstract, and by reading abstract, you are done. You are done making up your mind whether you want to keep on reading this paper or this paper is not going to add anything to what you have already known. So that is how to, that's what I taught in literature review like a pro. By the time you become a pro, that's how you read. Fine, that's by the way. So the third one, I can't remember the third one now. Can somebody please help me remember? What's the third question?
Okay, sir. I wanted getting the literature review. What literature review is, but the slide
Okay, okay.
presently is showing that which is not.
Okay. Don't worry, this slide will be made available to you at the end of the discussion. So you'll be able to have a good read of it. And then I think that the whole class is being recorded. All right. So is there any other question? I think I really like these two questions.
Yeah, okay, sir. Must your literature review highlight the gap that you're trying to fill?
Okay, must literature review highlight the gap that you are trying to bridge? Do I get that right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, the literature review, like I said at the beginning, tells a story. So the summary of the story that you are telling is the gap in the literature. Now, individual papers that you are considering, they may not necessarily show the gap, but the entirety of your discussion must show the gap. Why I said that is, you remember I had said that literature review is not an argument. So you don't pick every paper and start castigating the paper. No, there are some paper that needs to be praised. And honest to goodness, you must tell them that this paper have done a beautiful job. You get? If there's a paper that help you, that inspires you, you must show that this paper inspires the work I want to do. I can't remember a particular paper by Professor Musa. Professor Musa is, by the way, my mentor, and he had a paper, and somebody cited the paper, and of course somebody cited the paper, so he read the paper, to see what the person say about his work. And incidentally, the person really praised Professor Musa's work, and he said that that work gave him a lot of inspiration. That is literature review. So literature review is not necessarily trying to say this person did not do this person did not do that. Because sometimes what you're saying people did not do, they actually do it, or they have a reason for not doing it, which they might have even said if you have read their paper very well. So in summary, literature review as a discussion, as a one section discussion, is to show either current trend or gap in the literature, right? But individual paper that you are considering may not show, remember I said it may not show the gap in the literature. I hope that is clear. Okay. So is there any other question, or we can move on?
Yes, there's one final question on the chat.
All right, thank you.
It says, "Good morning, sir. My question is that what do we how do we compose our literature review from previous work? Are we going to copy from there or compose my own understanding based on previous work?"
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we're going to get there, and we'll be discussing that in depth when we are discussing drafting. I said that, like this slide that is in front of you, steps for writing literature review. So you have planning, reading and research, analyzing, drafting. So the question you are asking is on drafting. So don't worry, we'll get there. And when we get there, what you will find out is that after you have read, right, you will no longer be talking about a single paper. Rather, you'll be judging a single paper against the body of knowledge that you have built when you are doing your literature review. Now, literature review, again, is not just what you do by writing. Literature review, as you can see from here, starts from planning, starts from asking yourself the question, what type of literature review am I doing or am I writing, right? So by the time you get to drafting, you have a lot in your mind, a lot on your head that you want to write about. It's just a matter of focusing your energy to write. So we will get there, we'll get to drafting, and then you'll see how easy drafting can be. Okay, so let's keep this question in view till I believe next week we should be able to answer your question in depth. Okay. All right, so now let's get started. Planning. By the way, we are almost done. We're almost done the end of this class. All right, so planning answer the question, what type of literature review am I writing? The reason is that there's different kind of literature review that you can do. You can do literature review, like I said, to show the trends in literature. And by the way, when people do this, they get to publish it as a survey work, I mean a literature review work. I've never been able to do this. Not to lie, the one time I wanted to do it, it became too large that it becomes so overwhelming. I just have to drop it. I cannot undo it. But it's a beautiful work. I've seen a lot of review works like that. They show trends. They show the kind of method that people have been using and how that method have been changing from years to years. Some that have gone into extinction, some new ones that are coming out of the old one, some hybrid method and all of that. So it is possible to do that and publish that one even as a standalone paper. And I can tell you that those kinds of paper are highly cited. Now, the second literature review that you can do, the second kind of literature review that you can do is to show the research gap. Now, this is usually done in conjunction with the with maybe to introduce a new method or to present your own results. So you show the research gap and trying to convince us that this work that you are doing, it's worth doing. This work that you are doing is going to change how research is done in the world. This research that you are doing is going to change the way and the perspective we have about the universe and all of the hype you can give yourself. So literature review can also help you do that, right? So let's go on. Planning. The focus of planning is, what is the specific thesis, problem, or research question that my literature review helps to divine. So this can be a reason why you are doing literature. Now, also identifying a focus that allow you to sort and categorize information and eliminate irrelevant information. Now, you know, by next week we'll be discussing on how to analyze your literature review. But then the focus, the planning, right from the onset, when you are planning what kind of literature review are you doing, it can also help you to sort and categorize the information you'll be getting, and also to eliminate irrelevant materials from you. I've seen some literature review that says that when they are writing, there are some papers that they don't consider at all. Some will tell you that for our own reading, we only consider papers that are ISI rated, or papers that are published in a particular quality band, maybe Q1 or Q2. They'll tell you that. Some will tell you that we only consider papers that are found in PubMed, that's medical publication, and so many other restrictions that help them to eliminate irrelevant material. So all of that is done at planning level. So let me say again that if you are planning to write and publish a review paper, planning help you to narrow down, and you will not get lost like I did and abandon your quest, right? So a lot of time, in retrospect, I discovered that the reason why I get so lost and overwhelmed with what I was doing is because I lack focus and planning. If I had planned very well before I started reading, I would have known what I should focus on, what I should not focus on. I will have sort and categorize the information I want to get, and then help me to do that. All right. So the second thing that you plan on your focus, right? That's number one. Secondly, you plan on the type. That's what type of literature review am I conducting? Is it a theory? Is it a methodology? Is it policy? Is it quantitative? Is it qualitative? Now, these are different based on your area of studies, right? For some in social science, they focus more on theory, economic theory, and all of those theories that they do. For people in management, they focus on policy, right? Their review can be on policy. What is the policy that this person is bringing on board? What is the policy that one is bringing on board, and all. Now, for most of all in sciences and social science, we focus on methodology. What method is this person putting forth? And then more, you can look at the qualitative, the result. What is the result that this person get? For many undergraduate projects I have reviewed and I have read, I discovered that they usually focus on the result. So what is the percentage accuracy that this person gets? What is the maybe what is the loss that he got? Was he able to fabricate what he promised to fabricate, and all? So your review can also be based on the quantitative, like empirical results that they got, and it can also be based on qualitative. This one is a little bit difficult to test because it's a matter of opinion, or is a matter of you yourself, you have established some metrics in your heart, or you have validated some metric based on the literature, upon which you can now judge the literature that you are reviewing. So this is what you do in planning. All right. So another thing that you can plan with is the scope. What is the scope of my literature review? and what type of sources am I using? Remember, I've said that some people may say, yeah, for this their own review work, if a paper is not Q1 or Q2 rated, I am not going to read it, right? Some people may say, if a paper is not open source, I'm not going to read it. I have thumbs up for that anyway, because in Nigeria we cannot pay. All right. So you can define your scope of literature review in any way. What kind of sources do you want to get? Do you want to review IEEE paper, or you want to review any other kind of paper that you want to? Also, then the last one is the academic discipline. What field or fields am I working in? In this 21st century, it is highly difficult for you to do research in only one field. The world has changed into multidiscipline. For instance, you hear me that I said I'm working majorly on medical AI. I have never studied medicine in my life, and I never want to be a doctor, right? But most of my research, even as an engineer, had been on that. So, and not just that, I've been doing research also majorly in AI, which is primarily a computer science discipline. So you can see how those things are interrelated. We have also had to work with agri people in developing a weed identification robot and all of that. We had to review papers that are written in agri. So when you are reading and when you want to work, then you ask yourself, what kind of discipline am I working in? So because you can go ahead and be reading papers that are not necessarily relevant to what you are doing. For instance, I told you I work on diabetics, and there are some papers that are deep biological papers. I will not waste my time reading that, even though I want to do medical AI, right? There are some papers that are deeply medical. I don't even understand their terminology, and I'm going to waste all of the time if I want to learn it. So I'm not going to read that. So I feel more comfortable with papers that are also sort of an hybrid that can present the medical terms in a relatively friendlier way to us that are layman in that field, and then also talk to me as a control engineer. So what I'm saying is that you also need to plan, what discipline am I going to read, what field am I working in, and which one do I want to favor. Do I want to go to extreme in them, or do I want to just look for a middle ground to work with, right? Okay, so lastly, let's take a little reflection. So you need to take a little moment and answer each question in the planning, the questions that I've shown you, right? And sorry, let me read. Take a moment to answer each of the question in planning section of your packet about literature review you are currently working on or plan to work on. How many questions could you answer? What question did this sort of exercise raise for you? So this is for you. After you have this reflection is to give you an answer that will guide your reading, right? So that leads us into reading. What material am I going to use? That is the question that reading is going to do for you. Sorry, it is reading and researching, because you have to research before you can get materials to read, right? Okay. So now, how do you collect your material, right? And then how do you summarize this the sources that you get? Now, these are quite important. I won't go through all these questions, but I'm going to talk to this slide, right? Unfortunately, I'm not using my system. I could have shown you, but I believe that in the last class, unfortunately, I was not able to join. Prof taught us how we can search for literature. I believe, did he do that, Mohammed?
No, he only spoke about the psychology of research, of grant writing and research.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, unfortunately, I'm not on my system, but okay, uh, okay. I don't know which method is the best now to use. Okay. Okay, just give me a minute. Let me transfer this call to my system. I hope you can do that. So let's take a moment and maybe just answer some questions. Did anybody have a question to ask before, as I'm making this transition?
Yes, there's a question. Please, sir, what is the difference between qualitative and quantitative?
Okay. Let me stop sharing. Good. Okay, sorry, please. I think I will not be able to talk and do this at the same time. But let me just quickly say, change this. Let me quickly change this call to my system. Okay, so as I'm doing that, I can then answer this question. So the difference between qualitative and quantitative. Now we use qualitative to say the quality of a research, and then we use quantitative to mean a measurable now this is this is a sort of philosophical question, but with qualitative, right? Qualitative is a feel that you have about the quality of the research. The quantitative is actually an empirical result that the paper give you. This is what I mean. This can be easily done with scientific research, actually. So for instance, I can design an algorithm for classification, let's say live disease classification, that comes to my mind, right? And after I do that, I can test my model and then have a particular result. So that result that I got from my research is a quantitative result. Now, even though I get, say, 100% or whatever percent I got, somebody can still. Okay, now I think I'm here. Okay, I think you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, thank you. So now, even with that quantitative result I got, let's say 98% accuracy, somebody can still say that result, it did not trust my experiment process. Now that is now the quality of the research that I've done. We published a paper in 2020 on COVID, and in fact we use a new techniques to get our results, and we attempt to publish it in IEEE transaction of medical imaging, and the editor rejected the paper. He did not even send it out for reviewers to read, and on the basis that we got 98% accuracy on validation, and he stand to question it. He said he did not believe that result, especially because it's coming from Nigeria. Now I know this call is recorded, and I'm not scared of saying that, because it was so bad. That's complete racist, and a lot of my mentors confirmed that they do that, so I kept quiet, and we just have to resubmit the paper to another place. We got it published in Elsevier, which was good for us, and the paper has been really cited. Like within 1 year, we are close to 20 citations already. So that tells you the difference between qualitative and quantitative. Now, quantitative is the empirical result that was reported. Now, qualitative is now your own view about the quality of the research, and of course you can still conduct a literature review around that. I hope that is clear. Is it clear?
Yes,
Yes.
sir, I believe it is, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Somebody raised hand, Abdurrahman or something. Do I pronounce your name very well?
Yes, sir, it's
Femi,
Abraham.
yeah, I think we're already going past the time that we're supposed to stay on this call. So I'll ask
Okay.
that you finish first and then take all the questions after that.
Okay, okay, no problem. All right, so I want to show how we can search papers. Now, how to search paper? When you want to search paper, we search paper with Google Scholar. So Google Scholar, you can type and search Google Scholar on your normal Google page, and of course I trust it will be the first thing that comes out. So you can click on Google Scholar and it will still resemble your normal Google. This is the normal google.com. We call this one the market woman Google. So but then there is an academic Google, that is Google Scholar. So now, of course, the same way you search on Google, that's the same way you can search here. So I can then think of, I think you can then bring your research problem here. But when people are searching, I discover these are the mistakes that they make when they are looking for literatures to do. I mean to read. So say somebody's project topic may be the effect of corruption on Nigeria youth, a case study of um, um, Ibadan North local government. That's how some people formulate their topic. So, and the person may now come and ask Google for papers on that. And let's do that. Say, what was the effect of corruption on Nigerian youth, a case study of Ibadan North local government. Okay, yeah. So now, the person will now complain that he is not able to get a paper to read. Why? Look at what is coming. Student attitude and academic performance in agriculture science. Is it relevant? No. Of success made in local government, empowering program and economic empowerment of youth in Nigeria area of Oyo State. Is it relevant? No. Skill acquisition as a tool for poverty reduction in Ibadan North local government, Oyo State, Nigeria. Is it relevant? No. Home environmental factors as predictor of sexual abuse among school adolescents in Ibadan North local government. Is it relevant? No. So you can go through this entire page and you will not see any paper that is relevant to what you are looking for. Now, what is the mistake that this person do? He writes his entire topic. Now, but the way to search is actually to use the keywords that is relevant to your research. So from this topic now, I think so that I will not forget, let me put it somewhere. Hey, I didn't even ask you whether you can see my screen. Can you see the screen that I share with you?
Yes, we can, sir.
Okay, thank God. All right, now the topic is effect of corruption on Nigerian youth, a case study of Ibadan North local government, right? So the best way to do this is to refragment, search for keywords. And what could be the keyword? Well, number one keyword is actually corruption on Nigerian youth. But then we can look at, of course, now, yes, let me search for corruption. Corruption, Nigerian youth. I'll not use on now, I'll use in. Yeah. Can you see? Corruption and sustainable peace in Nigeria, equipping youth for reconstruction. Is it relevant? Sort of. Reign of Terror, a review of police brutality on youth by Anti-SARS Squad. Is it? Yeah, sort of. Causes of corruption in Nigeria, implication for national development. Is it? Yeah, sort of. Entrepreneurship as its tool for reducing unemployment among Nigeria youth. So you can see now that by doing that, I'm already getting a feel of papers that are relevant to my to the topic I'm doing. Now, let me add a little bit more. Let me put effect of corruption. That's still refined by search. Even so, you can see now, state bureaucracy and corruption in Nigeria, causes, effect, and solution to youth unemployment in Nigeria, ethnicization of corruption in Nigeria. Can you see? So a whole lot of things, which is now much more relevant to me, is coming. All right. Now, you can redefine this search by sorting. The first thing that comes is actually sorting by relevance. But then you want to, sometimes you want to see a very current paper on what you are looking for. So it is better to sort by date. So when you sort by date, a paper that was published 11 days ago, can you see? A paper published 20 days ago. So this way you can get more recent paper. Okay, I need to say, actually, by putting Nigeria, your search is becoming more narrow. You just have to read paper based on Nigeria. So sometimes you don't want to put locality in your search, right? Make the search like, what you want to do is you want to consider a body of knowledge in the world, not necessarily your locality, not necessarily your local government, right? Okay. Then you can also search by since what time. This is 2022, 2028 is like 4 or 5 years ago. So you can search papers 5 years ago. You can even customize the range. You can say you want to search between 2010, that's like 12 years ago, and 2022, and search. So papers between, so you can see 2012, 2014, 2010. So that is how to search, right? So that is searching. Now, and now get to how do you download the paper. Some papers are easy to download. Like, for instance, this a PDF is available in this place. If you click here, the PDF will be downloaded for you straight off. But there are some that doesn't have that. For instance, this doesn't have that. So let's look at that. How can you get this? Miriam, we are going to pause this video for me, because is it possible to pause the recording?
Yes, but my system is currently down, so I would have to just remove it after the session.
Okay, please remove it so that they will not come and arrest me. Okay, so this one is off record. Now, the paper we want that we are interested in is no access. It is not openly available. If you want to get it, you have to pay. Where is it? It's not even showing me. So I hope I believe that we get the whole idea of searching for paper by now. All right. So let me actually I am done. Yes, actually I'm done. So let's just wrap up the class and to just summarize what is coming up next in the next year. So this is what we did now. So we have covered in this class now, we have covered on planning, reading, and research. And then in next class, I think we are going to focus more on how do you analyze the papers that you have downloaded and you have read, so and then we'll look at how to draft and how to revise your paper. All right, so I hope I'll see you next week. If there's any other question, please let's quickly attend to that and we can call it. Okay, somebody has raised up his hand. Yes, Aliu, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sorry, I actually have questions, but because of the time, I'm not going to ask now, maybe next week. So I just called to say thank you. This session has actually been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. All right. Somebody else raise this hand. Yes. Whoever wants to ask question can have the floor, please.
Yes, Ali Abdurrahman, please go ahead.
Yes, okay, thank you very much, sir. Indeed, this section is very insightful. My question is regarding the quantitative you talked about and the qualitative. So, in that case, can one use both qualitative and quantitative result for a research?
Yes, it is possible. It's possible to use the two. But again,
Okay, sir.
qualitative, like I said, is an opinion. So really, people will respect your opinion only when you become an authority in the field. So maybe after some 5-10 years of research in a particular area, of course, you too, you can pick a paper and know that, no, this result that this person claimed he gets is not actually a good result. And then you can also qualitatively assess the methodology of that person and say, no, this methodology is faulty, and so the result is also faulty. So I hope you get.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Engineer Deinka, for this wonderful session. I hope it was as insightful for everyone here. Thank you for taking the time to attend this session. Please do not forget to follow our social media handles and engage Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. I think the link was dropped here earlier on. Stay tuned for another session next week. Hope to see every one of you there. Thank you very much once again.
All right. Thank you very much. It's nice meeting you all.
Yes, sir. Mariam or Mohammed, is anyone that wants anything?
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Adinka, for the very educative and insightful session. I believe the participants learned quite a lot today. And then what was taught in today's session, you won't see it like that. You won't see it anywhere. It's really rare, like the things that was discussed today. So I would urge each and every one of us to make sure that we make ourselves available for next week's session as well. As just as Engineer Adeyinka mentioned earlier, we still have 2 more sessions rather to go. And if you miss that, um, that will so I'll just advise each and every one of us to make sure to be available for subsequent sessions. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time, for your patience, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll be sharing the link to our social media platform shortly, so do ensure that you join our WhatsApp community and also follow us on LinkedIn as well as YouTube, because the video of today's recording will be shared there, and also the slides to today's session as well. So thank you so much, everyone.